First of all, well, this is an incredible story. Now, imagine you've been with your partner for over 3 years, you've got a child together, and of course you plan to spend the rest of your lives together. But then one day you find out he's not at all who he said he was, and everything you knew about him was a complete lie. Not only that, you realise he's conned you out of £600,000, all of which happened to Christine Handy. Christine is here now. What a nightmare, an absolute nightmare. And this is obviously somebody who knows exactly what they're doing, who was able to manipulate you very much. You'd just been divorced, hadn't you? So you're quite vulnerable. When you're,
yes.
You really are. You are, of course you are. And he obviously spotted that. When did you meet and how did he introduce himself?
I was just having a coffee on the way to work one morning, and he asked if he could join me. I was reading my paper, minding my own business, and I suddenly realised that all the other tables were empty. So I felt I was being rude to him.
Right.
So we just got chatting.
Right, just got chatting away. There he is, you know, and he was, presumably, you thought to yourself, oh, you know, he's a nice bloke. He knew how to behave to you. He knew what buttons to push and all of that. When did the lies start? Looking back, when did he start lying to you?
That day.
Really, really? What did he say to you?
Well, he introduced himself as Alexander de Arakan to start with, but that is one of his names. He has many.
Oh, he has many names.
Yeah.
Okay.
Further on into the relationship, he came along with his passport, which I thought was quite unusual.
Yeah.
And I just put it down to him being slightly eccentric. He was very well educated. His name was de Arakan de Rothschild Hatton. And I said, well, why did you bring the passport? And he said, you know, when people find out which family I come from, that, you know, he didn't want to go into a relationship with somebody thinking he was a de Rothschild. So I wasn't. Sorry, am I making sense?
Yes, you're making total sense. You're making total sense. So he was kind of showing you that he was part of the Rothschild family in his crazy mind. He was part of that.
But I already knew him anyway, so it wasn't something that drew me in. I wasn't impressed with.
Right.
Because I actually cracked a joke at the time and said, "Oh, Rothschilds, don't they make cigarettes?"
Right.
And being Rothmans, and he was a bit.
Oh, I see. So he was playing this kind of double game of sort of saying, I'm from a very rich and influential family, might be for the wrong side of the bed, but I'm a very, you know, and I don't want people sort of targeting me in order to get to my family or to my money. That's very clever, isn't it? Because in fact he's the one that's the complete scoundrel. When did he start taking money from you?
I was wooed. He'd never met anyone like me. Wanted to spend the rest of my life, the rest of his life with me. He talked about having a family because he didn't have a family of his own, because he told me both of his real parents were dead and he was adopted.
Okay.
And he was getting into his he was in his 40s. He was getting late. He needed to have a family soon. And at the time, I'm sort of 39. I've already got 3 children, and I'm thinking I don't need any more.
Right.
But here's the man. He wants to marry me. He loves me. The least I can do is give him the gift of being a father.
Right. So you were kind of swept off your feet by this bloke, really, weren't you?
Yes,
but then he started, now, first of all, he said you needed, because I've written it down here because it's so extraordinary, £175,000 he wanted to do a course at the London Business School, and then he took £41,500 off you about a property company that he wanted to set up. £105,000 you gave him to invest on your behalf, but obviously that's away. And then he said you had an urgent tax bill of £50,000. How was he able to explain to you why he couldn't pay the money and you needed to give him the money?
The first sum of money I gave him was before I was pregnant.
Right.
And that was to do his executive MBA at the London Business School.
Right.
And you know, our relationship was built on that. For 3.5 years, I assumed he was studying. Because he couldn't spend a lot of time with us.
So you thought he was away studying.
Yeah.
And in fact, what he actually spent the money on was £115,000 in cars, £114,000 in clothes, 26 grand on jewellery and other assorted sundries, almost £250,000. So he was frittering your money away. That's almost £500,000 that of yours that he frittered away, and the grand total is over £600,000.
Yeah.
How did you get, I mean, did you have to sell your house? Did you do all that?
Well, I sold my house while I was with him, because he told me he'd got a job he was starting in Switzerland in January 2006. And I was pregnant with his son.
Right.
The majority of the money came once I was pregnant.
Right,
and
okay.
you know, I can see, and with hindsight, and I can now see how it works. I've got 3 children on my own, and I'm pregnant with his son.
Yep.
He's coming along with, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You just think, well,
Yeah,
He's the father of my
Because
child.
you don't ever. Was there at any time at all that you thought to yourself, "Hang on a minute,
Yeah.
my money's draining away, and I'm not sure about this"?
Well, I could see my money draining away, but it was always a promise that this job was on the cards. He also had money offshore.
Right. So was he saying to you, I can't get my money is all tied up?
Well, obviously he was still living his life. I was at home with 4 children. He's still living his life, and I'm thinking, well, he's got to have an income from somewhere. He was telling me that he could only bring so much over to avoid tax.
Jeez.
It's just stories on top of stories, and suddenly I had it. He was a very emotional man as well. He turned up at my house one day, absolutely distraught, panic-stricken, and in tears. He told me he had dual nationality, that he was a Swiss citizen and a British citizen, and he'd filled out an Inland Revenue form incorrectly, and now the Inland Revenue wanted him for £80,000.
Right.
He was supposed to have been doing consultancy work abroad, and that's the money went into a Swiss bank account.
Right.
He'd made this mistake. I couldn't raise £80,000. I took a charge out on my house for 50. But again, I'm pregnant with his son, and I'm panicking because he's telling me, sorry.
No, and I can understand how emotional it is. You've been through absolute hell, absolute hell. Somebody that you've trusted, and somebody that you've loved, and somebody, for goodness sake, you've had a baby together. Of course you would be emotional about it. He's gone, he's scarpered, you don't know where he is?
No.
Nobody knows where he is?
No.
No, and is your concern that he's doing this to somebody else?
Well, yes, he's bankrupt. He can't have a bank account. What's he living on?
And it's kind of the way he seems to, you know, obviously we can't get his side of the story because he's not here, because we can't find him. But it seems that the way he operates is to prey on women, vulnerable women, and that's how he makes a living.
Yes.
That's how he does it. It's very difficult for you because obviously there's always going to be this tie because you've got your son, and that's going to be really hard to explain to him about his dad. That's going to be really difficult, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
But how are you coping with this, and have you been able to move on?
I've got a good family, and I've got some great friends.
Good. And that's going to help you. That's sort of listen. From what you've been through, I'm not surprised that you're upset and emotional. It's absolutely horrendous. It really is what's happened to you when somebody uses you like that. And you're a very bright woman. You're an intelligent woman. It just shows you that anybody can be taken in. I wish you all the best. I really do. I really do. And I sincerely hope that he hasn't conned anyone else. Thank you very, very much indeed.